2013, was it? We started getting tweets from a man named Steve December and his wife Hope. And Hope was saying to me, Michael, my husband Steve has very advanced stages of ALS. And at the time, I wasn't even sure what ALS was, and I looked it up, and it said one day your finger goes numb, a week later your hand goes numb, your arm, your legs, and eventually you die of paralysis. And she said, my husband is one of your biggest fans, and he'd love to come see your show. Is there any way that he could meet you? And so we said, sure, and we invited him out to this festival. And Steve at this point was in a wheelchair. Most of his body had rigored. He could talk in whispers, but he could only move his neck and his lips. And so we brought them on the side of the stage. And in front of 20,000 people at this festival, I started playing the song Life is Better With You, which is a song I wrote for Sara. And Steve whispers into Hope's ear. He says, I want to get up and dance. And so, with all her strength, she lifts his rigored body up out of the chair. And they have this beautiful slow dance in front of 20,000 people. And I start to cry. And I look over at Sara. She starts to cry. Our big, bad, tough bass player, Carl, he's over there bawling. And 20,000 people in the audience were crying and cheering for Hope and Steve. And afterwards, I said to Steve, I said, what did this mean to you to be here at this festival this weekend? And he said, you know, Michael, for the last year and a half, I've been stuck in my home, in bed. And when I came out here yesterday in the wheelchair, I was, wheeling around, and people didn't really know how to connect with me because I'm living life very differently now. And they would look at me and kind of look away or walk the other direction. But after that moment on stage, I became Steve. And suddenly people were coming up to me saying, hey Steve, we're stoked you're here, Steve. Come party with us, Steve. Come dance with us. Come have a beer with us, Steve. And he said it was really like a life-changing moment for me. And so I looked at Sara and I said, let's do this for as many families as we possibly can. And Sara is an emergency room nurse. And so she came at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and Michael being a musician, it felt like it was the perfect fit for us. And so the idea came from Emotion in April. We had our first fundraiser hosted by Michael and Ramona, Michael Goldberg and Ramona Berlin, who are here tonight actually in Aspen in August of 2013. And since then we've granted 2,000 wishes, and we send up to 4 individuals to a live concert experience. So that's 8,000 people that have been touched through your support, touched by live music. Yes. And which is, something to celebrate for sure. Thank you, Leo. And being a nurse, I studied the theory that illness was family-centered. I wrote papers about it. I was very proud about it. And then 2 years after starting to do it for the love, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and Michael's son was diagnosed with FSGS, which is a chronic kidney condition, which will put him into failure. And it was in that moment where we really understood how much illness affects the family and those closest to the individual. So we send the individual up to 3 family members, caregivers, or friends to a show. And this really doesn't happen without the support of individuals like you who come to our events and think about us in your daily lives and during holidays and support the organization. And like Michael said, there's familiar faces who we see who've been to the Vines and Vibes the last 4 years, and there's brand new ones who have just heard of the organization tonight. So as you're drinking your wine and eating your incredible food, thinking, hey, what can I do to support? As Dave mentioned, this is a fundraising effort tonight. I just want to point out a few activations that we want to invite you guys to just go visit. So we have an incredible silent auction, and there are things that I want to bid on, and when it's your event and you're telling your husband to go bid on things, there are some good packages there. We have a beautiful Wall of Heart, and Agatha and Steve Lusso are our $25,000 match sponsor, so I want to just thank you guys. So we need to raise another $25,000 so they match it. And if that's not motivation enough, if you do donate $250, you get this incredible cool t-shirt that you see our volunteers wearing that Life is Good has donated. And there's a rainbow Michael on the t-shirt, which I picked out. And Chef Palmer, I just want to invite you up here because we met Chef at another event. And when we had this idea and we proposed the idea of having it here at the Archer, the brand new Archer, which is so beautiful, We invited him to get involved. He didn't even hesitate, and he said yes, and we're just so grateful. So we wanted to thank you for saying yes and being part of tonight. So.